Welcome to Election Integrity Analysis. We want to make sure every vote counts. Today we're going to focus on the Tarrant County Constable race for Precinct 1. We're going to take a look at the March 5th Republican primaries. In this race, we have Adam Hanson running against Dale Clark. The official results from the election gave Dale Clark the win with 9,307 votes. Adam Hanson collected 9,260 votes. That's a difference of 47 votes, so it was a very close race. Let's hear what Mr. Hanson and his team of volunteer investigators uncovered when they performed a recount for this election.
In the election, we ran a really close race. We felt we did really well. So when the results came in and there was only 47 votes between us, we felt it was appropriate to ask for a hand recount. And that was in the sum of $10,000 to get the recount started. Through the process of the recount, we spent an additional, I think it's $4,800 and some change. And then after the recount, we've currently spent upwards of $21,000 in legal fees to challenge the election. So during the recount process, we were introduced by supporters at the polls to a group of true patriots who actually put their time, money, and energy into working towards election integrity. And that group is the one that has identified the majority of these problems.
A common way of testing the security of a computer system is to invite white hat hackers, meaning the good guys, to try to break in. There seemed to be an issue with the ballot system, and it's unknown if that problem was taken care of.
They had actually invited hackers to come and try to get into the system during public testing. And as I was standing there, I did overhear them say, "They're hacking the system, shut it down." And they shut down it was either the controller or the scanner.
The voting machines are specially built hardware running an off-the-shelf operating system, Microsoft Windows.
It's an out-of-date Windows computer system because once they certify the operating system that's on there, it can't be updated anymore or it won't pass the hash test. So, whatever version of Windows is on there at the point of certification is the Windows version that's there.
In addition to the voting machines, when you show up to vote, you're first checked in. The volunteers at the polling location will look up your information and give you a code for your ballot. This check-in is done using an Apple iPad.
It was publicly acknowledged later that the poll book had been accessed through a Bluetooth vulnerability. And the thing to understand here, poll books is where you're checked in. I have indications in my possession from the primary 2 years ago where there were unusual things that were happening in our poll book data. And if the Bluetooth ports were open, and there's no reason for it to be because we don't use Bluetooth in the elections, but the fact that that was open at all is concerning. The fact that he was apparently able to make access, and just how deep that access is unknown. But that was acknowledged that happened, and that should have never happened.
County-wide voting is a popular new voting procedure for Tarrant County, but it makes auditing and hand counting very difficult and expensive.
But because everybody can vote anywhere in the county, when as a person who's potentially going to have to count those, for example, having to go pull Mansfield polling location bags to go search for 5 ballots of thousands. It's ridiculous. It's not very efficient time-wise, especially when we look at the cost. Because not only is the cost of to the candidate, but if I understand it correctly, the attorneys charged to be there, the Republican Party has to pay their portion to be there. And again, if there's mistakes, it's a beating to have to go through all those things. If we were to go by, and I don't know what anybody else's opinion is about this, but I'm an advocate of by precinct voting.
Yeah.
And in this case, had we done by precinct voting, you would only need to go pull those particular precincts.
So you've got a program that's popular with the people, but it makes an absolute total disaster of the accounting and the reconciliation of the things. And it made it terrible. It is a disincentive to him or any candidate like him to do a recount or an investigation, because the cost is going to be many times what it would have to for a race like this. Now, if it's a countywide race, you're going to have to go into everything anyway. But in a lot of these smaller races, you would not have to. Even the Secretary of State has stated that this complicates their ability to audit, and they are right.
After you have selected your candidates on the voting machine, your vote will be printed on a blank ballot sheet. This includes a serial number that's assigned by the voting machine. There's a proposal to improve the security of voting by having the serial number pre-printed on the ballot prior to printing.
When we go back to the beginning, the ballot security, the voter registration, the ballot numbering is one of three security precautions. If in my precinct I'm only supposed to have ballots 1 through 100, and I have ballot number 104 in there, I've got a problem. Now, yes, you can duplicate numbers, but here again, when we have all the same type of paper and things like this, that narrows down that problem. In 2022 in Harris County, if they had had ballot numbering and been recording it the way the law indicated, they would have known which precincts or which voting locations got how many ballots and how many didn't. But they weren't paying attention to the ballot inventory forms, and they did not have ballot numbering in place, so they did not know what locations got what number of ballots.
Another thing that would help our election integrity is if we had penalties for when people broke the law.
Like when they take ballots to their home.
Gotcha.
And keep them overnight.
I worked with a judge twice. She was a Democrat judge. And she says, as long as nobody is in there voting, you guys can use your iPads and cell phones and do whatever. And so I reported it. And they said, yes, that's against the law. But we can't do anything because it doesn't say there's even a fine for that.
Everybody talks about election integrity, but there doesn't seem to be a whole lot about election integrity. It seems a whole lot of be quiet, don't talk about it, see what happened was, all that kind of stuff.
But at least we're getting a light shined on the problem, and we can let the general public know, the voting public know what's going on, so we can fix it. Because if we don't look at these systems and analyze them, part of the reason we did the recount, let's see the light of day with it. If it shows what's going on and we see the problems, then we can fix them. But if we don't address the problems, we'll never fix them, which is what's been going on. These wonderful people have spent years of their lives and time and money trying to do everything they can to make sure our elections are secure, and we owe it to them, especially as somebody running for office. That we owe it to these people to give them an accurate result, and that's what we're going to push to do.
What the recount showed me is I'd been involved, but I learned a whole lot more during the recount, and here's what I learned. We are not ready for November. And I've told Judge O'Hare, we are in sad shape in Tarrant County based on what I saw there and in other areas. And Judge O'Hare and the commissioners could fix this real quick.
You're probably wondering, what can you or I actually do about this? Well, the answer is quite a bit. On screen now is a QR code that will take you to tarrantelectionintegrity.com. On this page, you can see the complete recount findings as well as contact information for Tarrant County officials so that you can email or call to discuss these issues directly. Mr. Hanson's willingness to pursue a recount has been extremely valuable in shining a light on our election process. The recount costs and necessary legal fees are $450 per hour, and the costs are expected to total over $50,000. Please consider contributing enough to cover 1 or more hours to help him shoulder this burden. Instructions to contribute are on this webpage as well. In addition to the information presented earlier, here are some more facts that were uncovered. During recount, there were 53 missing ballots. The recount also found 77 ballots that were counted that should not have been counted because those voters were in an uncured suspended status. There were 171 more people checked in to vote than actual voted ballots. There were 88 more votes reported to the Secretary of State than what was actually reported in the Tarrant County records. There were multiple ballot chain of custody failures discovered. Not all the ballots were on the same paper stock. Counters observed at least 4 different types of paper ballot. Now finally, here are 2 recommendations that can be easily implemented. County-wide voting severely impairs the audits of elections and therefore must end. The second is that electronic voting is inherently insecure. Now, if Tarrant County insists on continuing with it, the contractual relationship with Hart InterCivic must be changed where the database and software source codes can be examined. Without access to the data and software, there is no way to audit the integrity and security of the elections. Help us and take a step today to make every vote count.